NetNewsLedger got the opportunity to sit down with Member of Provincial Parliament Saul Mamakwe. Our conversation took place at the Hub in downtown Thunder Bay. This is James with NetNewsLedger. It's James Murray. We're in our South Studio in the Hub in downtown Fort William. We have a very special guest with us. We have Saul Mamakwe, who is the Member of Parliament for the new riding in Northern Ontario. Saul, welcome to NetNewsLedger.
Glad to be here. Yeah.
You are new to the legislature. You have some unique things that have happened. First of all, you're the first MPP for the brand new riding. And when you're in Queen's Park, you're up a lot in question period and member statements.
Yes, certainly it's been an experience so far. And not only that, it's a unique opportunity to represent the people of Kiwetinoong riding, the municipalities and also the First Nations that I represent. As you know, I grew up in Kingfisher Lake, and it's my home community. So I grew up in the north, and it's Queen's Park is a very interesting place whereby you come from a perspective of First Nations person, and it really was difficult at the beginning where I understand I understood going in that it is a colonial system. The systems that are in place, whether it's policies, programs, funding, legislations, do not always work for the First Nations. So, and I'd say, certainly, with my questions, I try to get up, ask a question at least once a week, and just to frame out and tell a story of what's happening in the backyard of Ontario. And sometimes we say that this is a very rich province, very good province, very good country as well. But the people that are my colleagues that I sit with at the Queen's Park don't understand what's happening. And sometimes I'm able to tell my stories of what's happening to our people in the north, some of the struggles, the barriers, and not only that, the successes that are happening in our communities. And it's really an opportunity to kind of to change that trajectory of thinking of our people, not my people, but the people that are making these laws back in Queen's Park, and like to understand who we are as First Nations, Indigenous peoples in this in the north. Not only that, but also Indigenous people across the province. So I'd say yes, it's a unique opportunity.
Now, it comes with its challenges, of course. Riding-wise, what very few people seem to understand in Southern Ontario is that Northern Ontario is the size of France. And, taking the message from your riding to Queen's Park, how do you find it's being received?
Again, they don't understand the challenges of the vastness of my riding, the cost of living, the cost of food, the cost of providing programs, the cost of providing service in our communities is very different from down south. We're not talking about subways; we're talking about airports, and so. It's the cost of gas, cost of milk, cost of a truckload of wood.
Yes.
Those are the concepts that they don't really understand. And one of the things that they talk about is natural gas to urban and First Nation Indigenous communities, and how is that going to happen in my riding? I don't see it happening. I don't know, maybe 50, 100 years down the road. Yeah. I don't know, but it's just it's a very unique situation where I have to speak from my perspective, and it's going to be in the next 3.5, 4 years. It's going to be challenging as an individual, as a First Nations person, because I have the support from my party as well, and supporting me as a First Nations person, and to make sure that we start addressing some of the inequities and inequalities that exist in the communities. They don't understand the concept of why are one of our communities. Why have they been on 23 years water board advisory? Where else in Ontario is that allowed to happen? Those are some of the issues, the overcrowding, and the housing, the unnecessary deaths, needless deaths, and unnecessary suffering that happens in our communities, and they don't understand those, and to be complacent as as government, whether it's the federal or provincial jurisdiction, whatever, it's to be complacent is at the cost of people's lives and our people's lives, and I can see that happening on a daily basis, and I know the suicides that are happening, and sometimes our people, First Nations people in my riding, I know some of the issues that happen, and it's causing sometimes they fall into this jurisdictional wrangling that happens between the federal and the provincial government, because most communities, First Nation communities on reserve, they'll say that it's a federal responsibility, but again, we're part of Canada, we're part of Ontario, and why are our people treated differently? And so those are one of the challenges that the biggest challenges I face when I'm sitting there, and whereby province will not acknowledge that we are Ontarians, that we do not exist, and when government says government for the people, it's only for some people, not the people in our communities, and we have to get away from that. It's about trying to work together, and how do we make sure that again that change the thinking of the people that are sitting in that house and sitting in that Queen's Park, and making these acts, policies, programs, and legislations that impact our people. And again, I understand it's a colonial government. I understand there's colonial processes, and again, most times where there's no engagement with our people, it impacts the lives of our people in the communities.
You got the Ontario Legislature a few weeks ago to stand for a moment of silence over a youth suicide here in the north. There is an epidemic of addiction problems with opiates, an addiction problem with alcohol, and suicide seems to be, sadly for so many of the youth, a path they're choosing. What can we do? What message of hope can we share with the youth, and how do we get that message out there?
Yes, there's certainly an issue of access to access issues to proper resources, proper programming, proper services, and I realize the suicide crisis that keeps perpetuating in our communities. I understand there's an issue, but it's a very complex issue. And to get to the state where we are, it has taken decades and decades for us to get here, and it's going to take us a while to get out of it, to get out of that situation where we today when I talk to youth, I'll say we just need you alive. We just need you to stay alive. And I think that's one message that we need to do. But I think there's being able to understand the intergenerational trauma, from residential school, of course, the Ralph Rowe issue, Ralph Rowe, that was a minister and a Boy Scout leader in the North, and that has a huge impact on our people, on how he treated our young men in the North, and it's a really issue, and that's what I mean. There's so many multiple issues, whether it's housing, whether it's access to mental health services, access to economic development, access to schools, a good programming. It's really when we talk about children and youth or children and adolescents, when we talk about children's mental health and also special needs services. It's really I always say that's minimal at best, and not at worst it's non-existent, and that's the way our people have always gotten used to that. That's not normal, and we need to again both levels of government need to be able to work out the jurisdictional issues that we always play that game of the jurisdictional ping pong of our people, and it's we need to go beyond that, and I think how do we work together. But I think one of the key things in our communities is we need to acknowledge some of the deep-rooted issues that are happening in our communities, and I think and I believe that I know we cannot keep on this has been happening last 30-40 years with the epidemic of suicide crisis. When you look at the reports, when you look at the resolutions, people were in crisis back in mid-90s in our communities, and I've seen it. I grew up with it, and it seems that the approaches that we're doing are not helping, but we need a different approach. We need, our youth are tired of just, repeating themselves year after year. This is what needs to be done. So we need to put ourselves to account and put the governments to account that we need a process that is community driven. A healing process, or a process whereby, we have to transform the healthcare system, the education system, the child welfare system. These systems are colonial systems, and they're when I talk to a lot of people, the last few years when I was working in health, a lot of people told me that the systems were broken, and say example in health. But as years came along, I started to understand that they're not actually broken. They're doing exactly the way they've been designed to, and that's to take away the rights of our people to the lands and the resources that are there. And you can say that about education. You can say that about the justice system, health, the child welfare system. They're designed to do that, and we got to get away from that. And the only way we can do that is start, taking back the responsibility, accountability, and the resource allocation back to the community. Until that happens, and then also not only that, empower our people with access to land rights. Our people in the north, and the remote north, in our communities, that's the greatest resource that we have are the lands and the rivers. And again, I grew up on the land, with my parents, and that's where you learn the language, the culture, the values, the traditions of our people, and the history. And so it's both. It's it's kind of how do we get back up, and how do we get back the language in our communities, the teachings. Some of the teachings have been lost in our people, so we need to get back to those. And I think that's where we need to go. And sure, there's things that we can do that will not take any resources, but there's other stuff that we can do that will require some resourcing, some support from governments as well.
Now, in Manitoba, the Assembly of Manitoba chiefs are demanding of the federal and of the provincial government some serious changes to the child welfare system to bring it under First Nation control. Now they're demanding of the federal government to get the resources needed to put healing and to get the youth and the people who need help, to get them on the land for treatment centers. Can we do that in Ontario?
Certainly, I know there's a lot of, under the, soon after the crisis in Wabika back in 2017, I think with with the program that has been created, that there seems to be a lot of it's swaying towards where we try to utilize land-based healing in our communities, and I believe in traditional and also land-based healing, and I believe that that's a way to go. And how do we include the these type of teachings into our healthcare system, into our education systems, and into our healing. So it's all part of it. And I know I grew up in the communities. It's really all the activities that we do, whether it's fishing, cleaning, and preparing, and there's teachings into it. How into respecting everything, right? Like respecting the waters, respecting the trees and the fish, and I remember our people always used everything that they killed, so, and you never did overkilled or overdid it. So it's a really that's the way to go. Is we need our people, and again, that's our greatest resource, and that's why. And our communities need to make sure that our young people, our youth, our families, that they go back into the land.
I want to thank you for the time. I'd like to keep doing the conversation as we go forward, because the challenges aren't going away. They're there. And working to get the message out, and maybe to our readers and viewers on NetNewsLedger and through the Ontario Legislature and everywhere else, we can start getting the call for help and the call for what's needed to be out there. So thank you very much for taking the time.
All right, glad to be here.
And thank you.
All right, you guys.
It's James with NetNewsLedger, and back to the studio.